Good evening, everybody. This is Joe, and today's topic is, it's a little bit of a webinar, so that way, to talk about our mission, what's our plan to, why we do what we do, so that way there's a little more understanding. Okay, so what I do is I'm the owner of Code on Maintenance and founder of Military Maintainers Transition program, where all this whole ecosystem is all about helping you guys who are in the service trying to get out. Okay? So let me come on. Let's see. Let me fix this. Let's see. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Okay. So again, I've been helping guys out for nearly, 2007, almost a decade. Is helping guys get their the first step really was about helping guys, like that first year, almost 2 years, was helping guys get their 8610-2. Then that translated into helping guys, get some other aviation credentials that would help, like the GRAW, the AAT, and stuff like that. And then as I got out of the military, I wanted to start up the AMP. And then I started the AMP program right after I got out of the military, working two jobs, trying to get this together. And so I ran that for 6 years of helping hundreds, hundreds of guys to get their AMPs. Even thousands to get credentials. And we've worked with Allegiant, Boeing, and some MROs, Frontier, like to help those guys get their AMPs and help them get jobs, which is my favorite part. The AMP is like, I love to help you get the AMP. If I can find somebody that can do it better to help you, we'll do that. Not specifically I teach, but at the same time, we can all work together to accomplish the mission. And so in this webinar, I'm just going to talk about a little more about the AMP. And usually that's where there's not a lot of awareness. And in this webinar, that's what I want to talk about is that part. Okay. Just making sure everything's, my ducks in a row. All right. So let's go. All right. So my big promise is if you learn our system, you'll get hired faster. Especially if you're in a position to start looking. Okay. So today's mission is how can I help you skip college, get your AMP fast, and how to get ready for some employer interviews or get placed, or get hired on. Okay. So here's the reality. 22,000 mechanics get trained every year to get their aviation maintenance training. They get some sort of training. But then less than 10% go into aviation. And part of that is there's a lack of awareness of the opportunities out there, lack of resources. Nobody's going out to, and in some way, I believe that bases kind of make it difficult to do this because when I'm trying to talk about the AMP, I've been kicked out of the base or the units because they don't want their guys leaving. But this is essential, especially if you're going to be an AMP. And I get it. You're trying to protect your talent, your workforce, to stay in, right? But there needs to be some kind of game plan to help out guys when they do get out, that aviation is a great career to get into. And as for me, I'm an F-16, A-10 crew chief. Did it for 14 years in active duty, 1 year reserve. And my plan when I first got in, is to work for a great employer like Lockheed Martin, because I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, and that's what I saw. I was inspired by the F-16. You know, Probably not the most popular aircraft in the Air Force, but that's what I saw. So I'm flying around, and I was like, I want to work on those, and that was my only thing. I didn't know I can work for the airlines. I didn't know I can work for a small shop. Or now what I know, meeting other business owners and presidents of companies, or the chief mechanic of Boeing. I didn't know these were possibilities. And even when I was in the military, I didn't even know that was a possibility. So now what I know, I want to give back and talk about these things that to grow that awareness of the resources, of the opportunities on the outside. Okay, so I had no idea what was out there. You know, um, 2006 was a huge, you know, wake up call, because back then, if you don't remember, or if you don't, I completely don't, I don't know, maybe you weren't even born yet, but if you were, back then in 2006, I was just in the military, a couple of years in, about a year into active duty, and the military was trying to do a whole total force reduction. It's something like that. They called it that program, and pretty much everybody was going to get cut, no matter if they were great mechanics. They were just getting cut. It was just happens to be that they just treated us like a number. I felt like at the time, and after that, I started getting prepared to go to school, to do what I can to be prepared for the outside. And I always talk about the story of my two buddies that got out, and they didn't know what to do. They were just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to school, and Home Depot is gonna be something that's gonna just fill the gap, right, for their living expenses to um, whatever school can supply, right?" So that was a huge wake up call, and I'm pretty sure if they knew about A&P and what was out there, it would have been a different story for them. They would have been happy continuing their aviation field, and um, because they were awesome mechanics, they were great leaders. This is the type of guys you want to stay in, and it was sad to see that they just got cut because it was just bad timing for them. They got into a time their contracts, expired because they, just bad timing. It just fell in the season where the Air Force was thinking, "Hey, we need to get rid of people," and they fell into that bucket where you're getting out. No matter how good you are, how good of a leader you are, you're getting out. So that was painful to see, and a harsh reality that even in the military, is not 100% safe. And I thought that was the case when I first got in. Um, but I didn't, that was 2006, and I still don't know anything about the A&P. It wasn't until 2017 that I knew about the A&P. I'm 10 months from separating, no idea about corporate aviation, working for Southwest, or any cool ass job like that. And um, this is the part where I wish that somebody told me about it, because I would have, done different things. Pretty sure. So now I want to do that, where, one, your skills are valuable, your um, your leadership, whether soft skills or hard skills, is valuable. Okay. So during this time, there's a couple things that I found out that I've been lied to. Not that I've been lied to, it's just been marketed to, sold, that I needed to go to college, and that I needed to get a 4-year degree, and um, and then once I knew about the A&P, I was like, I had to go to 2-year college. So now that I know that it's not that school is a waste of time, it was just not necessary. And especially in a phase, I was 10 months out. I wanted to get on to my career. I wanted to get my A&P right away and get into a job. I don't have 2 years. And when I found out about this A&P, I was like, there's a lot of opportunities out there that can pay 6 figures. And to get that, for the majority of them, you have to get the A&P to unlock that 6-figure, job. So again, nobody told me about the A&P. And this is why I'm doing military maintainers transition program. It's a better way to transition, a better way to have everything in a row structured. The problem wasn't me. It was just a system that, people weren't, it's just a part of the system the military has that they don't talk about these things. And it's up to us to do that. So, it was kind of funny how I knew about A&P, because, I was working in the belly in A-10 in a phase dock, and, one of my supervisors, he was like, hey, you're about to get out, right? I was like, yeah, go get your A&P. It's like, go do X, Y, and Z and go to the education office. They'll get you hooked up. I was like, okay, cool. I got all those documents. Still don't know what the heck it is, but I'm going to go get it. And I went, got my authorization, and then I was curious. I was like, so what is this? What does this do for me? And I just went on the path of research, of, what they call a rabbit hole, trying to figure out what this is all about. And once I found out about it, I was like, you know what? My cousin does. I know he went to school. I know he works for Lockheed. I'm going to ask him, do they need this? And will this help me? And I talked to him, and I was like, this is 2017. So he's like, yeah, dude, if you get this and I can hook you up with this position, what's your experience in this? Dude, this is easy, $80,000+ job. I was like, damn, that's a lot. That's a lot for me back then. And I was like, and you start thinking about it. It's like, why don't they talk about this? Why doesn't the military or anybody that I know does the entire career not know about the A&P? And unfortunately, that's still how it is. Okay, so I linked up with a buddy, old buddy, and we weren't even talking about A&P or anything. It's just linked up with him, because I remember back then he was trying to make me do something, or some kind of credential, and then he was the one that led into the A&P. So we worked together and we put together A&P. I mean, I did most of the legwork because we were trying to do it in Tucson, and he was in New Mexico, and he was like, do this, do that. Okay, I'll do it, which was great, because I learned how to make things happen. Built it. While he was over there, and he couldn't do much, so I did all the legwork of finding a place, equipment, instructors, curriculum, put it all together, and it is what it is now. So, it's just so many people are so unaware of the A&P, and maybe the system just doesn't know. You don't know what you know. They don't know how, and there is departments that know, they just suck at promoting it, and that's unfortunate. So I built a system tailored for the military maintainers with other FAA, individuals, instructors who teach A&P stuff, and we all work together. So pretty much this little community all helped me put together an A&P prep course that was not officially, but unofficially, like, they gave me the green light. They was like, this shit's good, man. I was like, all right, let's go. And I didn't have experience in business, and that's something I had to learn. learned the hard way, and had to rebuild things, still rebuilding, and and I'm kind of glad because it's got me out of my comfort zone, expanded, different things, and so yeah, it is what it is, and learned many great people along the way, met a lot of great people who just want to help out maintainers as well. So that's a great thing. There used to be a stigma that they try to get away from the military guys, but you know that's not the case anymore. So you don't have to feel like um, people are discriminating against you. So sorry, that's going off on a rant there. Okay, so getting your degree, it was that people said it was necessary, is a myth. Okay, so getting this A&P credential will help you even to get a degree if you want to pursue. And I'm not here to bash degrees, but I just remember being sold on trying to get a 4-year degree, and then you get a good job in aviation. And I wasn't at the time, like when I back in 2006, I was all about going to college, and I was focusing on a different type of thing that wasn't, yeah, I was just on a different path in my education. I'm behind. I felt like I was behind because I didn't go to college, or I didn't, get a degree when I was about to get out. And I just had all this like doubts of, I'm in the military. Are they going to see me that have this PTSD? Even though I had a blast and I have a good time, I don't have PTSD. I learned a lot. It's like he was like, why wouldn't somebody take me? So, college is a path. And I get this all the time. It was like, hey, I'm going to get my bachelor's. I'm going to get my master's, But what I would recommend is that you probably start with the A&P first. And then if you want to stay in aviation, which most of my friends do, stay in aviation and then helps them towards a degree, So your military experience is another one where you can, which is faster to get your A&P and even get your degree. So with the right framework, you can get to all of those things. So like I said, you don't need to go to your degree either. To your school. There's now, fast track preps like ours. Gets you an A&P in 10 to 14 days. So we've been lied to, we've been sold to, we've been marketed to that you need a degree, and that's not the case. Your military experience is enough, and it counts on the outside. And I didn't feel like it did, and I thought it was just government jobs. But employers don't care where you go to school, how you got your experience. They care about that A&P, and can you turn a wrench? That's all they care. And FAA kind of does it for them because they recognize that you're an aircraft mechanic. So again, you don't need a degree. The A&P is going to help you really accelerate your career in aviation. Right? It's going to open up more opportunities, and the FAA is going to recognize that, and it's going to give you the 8610-2s so you can go test. Okay. Now, all they care about is that, make sure you have it documented, of all the hands-on experience stuff, and that, you can be safe and reliable, and you have great work ethic. The degree is optional. The proof kind of beats the pedigree, right? So, like I said, 22,000 maintainers get the training, and only 1,500 get certified. So there's a huge gap. This is yearly, and that's something I want to improve. Even if you don't use it, you can use it in other, blue collar work. This will help you. Even get, if you're into finance or you're, working at a company that's aviation focused, having an A&P is going to help you. Okay, so that's why I say don't disregard, getting a 4-year degree, because a lot of companies need it. If you're going to be in that kind of level with in business, in the business board meetings. A&P is going to help because it gives you business experience and the A&P experience. So this is where you have advantages, right? For school, you have PDT-Ys. You can go to school, you can get your interviews done using PDT-Y, and you just gotta, collaborate with your leadership to make that happen. Okay, you have hands-on experience. You don't need to go to school for it. You already have experience, and then you just go to the FAA so they can recognize that experience and knock it out. And some programs will even pay for your A&P. So now, our military maintainers transition framework is, now that you have an experience, you can go test. I can help you get, your authorizations and get your credentials, and how to help you position yourself to get offers from employers. So, recap. You don't need a degree. And I'm not saying not to get a degree, but getting your A&P first and then getting your degree is going to help you. Okay? You don't have a problem with your skills. Your skills are great. You have great sets of skills that can help you on the outside, and that's what employers are looking for. Okay, and other paths to get your A&P is doing it yourself. You can go to a prep course. You can go to a 2-year school as well, 4-year degree. You can do all those things. It's not the only option to get a degree. It's optional. Okay, and once you get your credentials along with your experience, you can position yourself for a great, transition and have a great career. And you don't have to go to college. You can bypass all that if you don't feel like going to college. Okay? So some of the fears, right? I get this all the time. It's like, you don't need to be good at school. You just need to know a process, right? So a lot of people come in. It's like, I need to know everything. I need to know all this stuff. It's like, coming with that mindset, believing that once you graduate at school, you're going to know everything, is not going to be realistic, because you come with experience already. Yeah, you're going to be learning. And the thing is that A&P is going to be your license to learn. All right. So you don't need to be good at school. Just follow a process, and it'll help you follow the structure, follow the plan, and you're going to knock it out. So this whole thing about I'm not good at school is like, I need to understand everything. Tests are not my thing, and we'll prepare you for all that stuff. You don't have to be all that smart to be an A&P. You just got to learn the concepts. Concepts will help you, and then you got to, remember these things, and then you get a study guide to know what's going to get a good idea what's going to be on the test, and then you study those, and you're going to knock it out. Okay, a lot of it's going to be word for word. Some of it's going to be not. That's why concept learning, knowing about the concept is going to help you. Okay, but it makes it a lot easier memorizing the questions and the answers. Because you already have experience. You're just testing out. So I don't know what's the big deal about people so against of memorizing stuff. But you already know how to turn a wrench. You already know how to troubleshoot. You already know how to inspect, and you just got to learn a new airframe system. A whole new system, really, because the FAA runs things a little different. But you know that you know how to document. You already know how to keep things safe and accurate. So a lot of it is documentation, consistency, and removing distractions, because you already have everything. You already have the prereqs to knock this out. All right, so you'll be taking your generals, your orals, and practicals, all within 2 weeks. Generals, or your written exams, is the generals, airframe, power plant on the written exams. Same thing on your orals and practicals. And it's super easy. Once you get past those written exams, it's down there. It's downhill from there. Okay, so really it's about focus, getting your daily practice, from the documentations, the the keeping up with your grades and talking to us, that feedback is going to help you, and it's going to help you fast. And then we go simulate the real thing. You get you some practice tests so you can get ready for the real thing. Okay, so yeah, it can be done in 2 weeks. Oh, dang, I still need to remember this. All right, so we'll keep it moving. So yeah, it's we have an online prep to make it all happen. So it's like most places have test centers now, or one near you may have some, not that far. But for your orals and practicals, you definitely have to come back to the US. It's just how it is. So to go over, secret number 2 is you don't need to know everything. A&P is licensed to learn, and there's resources out there to do it for free, like ourschool.com/military-maintainers.com. Or no, leave out the .com. All right. So I'm gonna go to make sure I'm not missing anybody. All right, cool. All right, so that's number 2. All right, here we are. So a lot of people, stress about getting their employers, and when I talk to them, we try to figure out where you're located, where you want to go, what's your skills, and like I already know your skills. You got your A&P. Okay, where do you want to go after that? What kind of job you want to have? And we'll help you build a list and knock that out. And if you're trying to really find your dream job, sometimes you might have to take a couple of steps, take a couple of stops to get there. You might have to go to a regional, you might have to go to a different location. But please, for the love of what's all holy, is just don't try to take whatever is available. Start off prioritizing who are the people you want to go work for. Go find out about that job and go apply for them. And each resume is specifically tailored to them. And there's different things, okay? So again, don't apply everywhere. Not any job is great. They're all different. And because you're gonna go to a bad company who's just hiring a bunch of people, and you're gonna be upset because they treat their people bad. So some of these companies do take a long time. Like big companies do take a while, a month, 3 months to hire you on fully. So make a list of the ones you really want and apply for them. And you want them to be tailored to each one. Now that we got ChatGPT, translate everything. There's AI stuff. I think Teal was a good one, TEAL. That's a good one that really helped me with resumes. But yeah, go to, come in here. There's people who can help you out with your resumes. So stop trying to apply everywhere. Focus on targeting and prioritizing those employers. Okay, because if you do get picked up, guess what? It's to somebody that you would really like to work for. Okay, it's some things you gotta think about: the goals, pay, schedule, location, experience. If you want to do some airframe and power plant, or just airframe, or just power plant, lifestyle. Do you want to work at night? Are you okay with that? A little bit of sacrifice for a few years, and then if you want to be home nightly, that's going to be a different type of career. Make sure you got a growth plan. Your training, promotions, licenses. Be more valuable to the team. So just make sure that you become a good fit. Finding the companies that be a fit. That way you make more money, you get growth, and you be part of the culture. Okay, so great leadership, great safety measures, tempo and respect. That's the culture. That's what you want to be a part of, right? You gotta make sure that you're being picky about this. Okay. So our code one match system is going to be about finding you those people, filtering out, get you connected with recruiters, getting you connected with companies who are aviation friendly or veteran friendly. And there's tons of opportunity there, from biz jets to major airports to airlines to defense contractors. We look for those people, and we just hope to help you find that dream job. Okay, and we're gonna be really focused on that short list of who to target. All right, so being selective saves your time, stress. It just saves headaches all around. Okay, so something to think about if you're coming close to separating. Start networking now so that people can get to know who you are, know your personality. So let's say I can help you get your credential, give you the plan specific to you, and help you later on, find an employer. Would you win? So let me, if I can do it in 2 weeks, if I can help you find it in a couple of weeks more to an employer, then and it pays really well, I'm pretty sure you'd be about it, right? Don't you think you could be successful? Right? So we charge quite a bit to companies. We charge some of our students for this stuff, but if we can knock this out online, it'll be $200. And because you're on this webinar, we can knock it down another $100, and just comment with me or DM me on LinkedIn. Hey, I want to take your webinar or take your class. I saw the webinar. You can knock it out. So you have 30-day guarantee that you'll enjoy it. You're on the right path, and then if not, 24 hours later, you can just get your full refund. Okay, so what's next? Just sign up. Let's have a conversation. Military maintainers, book a call on that website. That way you can get started. All right. If you have any questions, email me. We can knock this out together, buddies. And that's pretty much it for the webinar. Thank you for coming and doing more of these around 10 o'clock. So, and thank you, Mom, for being the one person showing up to these. All right, guys. Have a good night. Be safe out there on this Friday Eve. Let's get going.